last class we talked extensively about the genres of literature, which is drama, poetry, and prose. Now in this class I'm going to be talking about literary appreciation, appreciating literary works generally, whether it's drama, whether it's poetry, whether it's prose. Literary work generally, as it concerns every work of life, every field of study. Now, literary appreciation is a systematic way of logically criticizing the work of art. You understand? But then you have to follow the laid down guide and principle and the ethical requirement in order to appreciate a particular work. Well, criticism, like many people think, is not necessarily on the negative aspect. Criticism most of the time, especially as it relates or it has to do with literature, criticism has to do with a critic. That is the professional name for a person that criticizes a work of art, coming to look at the brilliance in the work, then the weakness in it. So it talks of what the author have done to the work that have brought justice to it perfectly, then what the author have not done, of taking cognizance of, that have made the work imperfect. And as you know, they say knowledge thrives on criticism. So definitely it is criticism is nothing negative. But then we should also know that a work can be negatively criticized, outrightly negative, like a larger percentage could go to the negative side if the job does not follow the orthodox rudiment. It does not follow the ethical laid down rules. You understand that the job is supposed to follow. That kind of work can be rendered null and void, and people will lose interest inside of them. Plenty of African writers have coined a niche for themselves. Take, for instance, the world famous Wole Soyinka with his Lion and the Jewel. In that piece of work, you will see that the attention are paid to virtually every aspect, every rudiment, every tenet that is needed to bring the work to perfection. Take another one, is Chinua Achebe in his Antics of the Savannah. Talk of Ngugi wa Thiong'o in his Black Hermit, and Mariam Ba in So Long the Letter, and so on. So these people, they've been able to coin a niche for themselves because they've been different, because they stood their ground to do something extraordinary by going by the principle. They become it becomes innate within them. They deliver it without much stress or effort. Now we move to how to study literature or a literary piece. There are 3 basic steps in studying literature, and number 1 of it is analytical approach. Now, when we talk of analytical approach, you pay attention to every element of a literary work. Talk about the figures of speech, talk about the plot, talk about the settings, and talk about the figurative expressions, which I also mean by figures of speech. That is 1. 2, the thematic approach. Now, this make you crave to know what that piece, what inspired the author, the writer, the playwright or the poet to put this piece together, to want to write that kind of piece. That is what thematic approach does to you. It makes you pay attention to why the theme of that particular job. Then finally, historical approach. This aims at illustrating the historical development of that particular act. It aims at enumerating the historical development of that particular piece of work. So, as I said, 1, analytic approach. 2, so that is thematic approach. And 3, I said historical. Approach. Now these approaches make you be it enables you, it empowers you to study literature conveniently, at so much that you will be able to digest. You will be able to digest every information that you get from literature. As a matter of fact, you will be able to be a judge of that particular literary work. You will be able to critique a particular literary work to the best of your own knowledge. Now, quickly from there, we'll move to the elements of literature. Elements of literature. Well, we'll go directly to the element of literature. Why? In literature, to drive home your point, there are elements that you have to pay attention to. If not all, but some, and there are some that are very key and they're very vital that you have to pay attention. First of all is the theme. What is the theme? Is the central idea. Is the central idea or message that that the author is supposed to drive home, that is author is supposed to deliver, that the author is meant to achieve by the piece of work he must have ventured into. Now, I'm going to cite an example quickly. While showing Keslan and the Joel, there are a couple of themes in it. You have the westernization and the traditional lifestyle. You have the marriage, the traditional kind of marriage and the western kind of marriage. So you have a generational conflict too. The wisdom of the old against the foolishness, so to speak, of the young. These are the theme. These are the theme. So the goal, the focus, and the target that the author wants to meet makes up his theme in a particular work. Quickly, we move next to diction. Now, diction. I think in the last class I talked about the diction. Diction, like I've said in the last class, depends on the kind of word, the class of words that the author or the writer decide to employ in order to convey his message. Now, there are different dictions for different class of people. For instance, now there's a book called The Child of Jimmy Johnson. The Child of Jimmy Johnson, though a good book, but then is not supposed to be dished out to children of secondary school. You understand, because of the regularity in the usage of language. It's too ordinary, it's too regular. There is nothing so mind tasking or challenging about it. So that is why it shouldn't be given to a secondary school child. You understand? So diction drives home the point to a class of people. So if you find out a diction is actually talking about a particular work, you know that, okay, maybe it's meant for a people of higher ground. For instance, now when the writer talks about engineering, talks about the field of medicine, talks about law and stuff like that, you will know the class of people that are meant to read. Not necessarily people that are in the law field, but then people that at least have been to the higher class of education. Those are the kind of people that can easily understand that kind of word. So diction determines who or the audience of the writer. Next, we move to characterization. Now, characterization has to do with the collection of every characters in the work, whether in a play or in a prose or poetry. The character and characters are the individual that act it out. I mentioned that in the last class. I remember characters are people that act it out, whether in a play or in any other work, literary work, that is. Quickly, we move to volume. Now, volume, I think I mentioned that too when I was talking of prose. I said in prose you have the novella, you have the novel, you have the essay, you have the autobiography, biography, you have all of that. Now, I remember that I told you that the difference between one to another of this is probably the style in which it's written, then the volume. Now, volume has to do with the numbers of page, the pagination, the numbers of flips that the book or the message contains. There are some books that are written in 500 pages. There are some novels that are written in say 1,000 pages and thereabout. I mentioned that. So volume just talk about the length or the pagination, the amount of words that a particular page in a book contains. Now, next we'll move to the setting. Now, at this junction, setting has to do with geographical location. Okay. Now, there's a book called it's a book about Usman Dan Fodio. Now, a book about Usman Dan Fodio. Usman Dan Fodio is an heroic icon that lived in the north, that fought for the northern people and Islamic right. So, definitely, when a person talking of Usman Dan Fodio might use words that are northern in orientation, say Rankadede, say Sanu, say stuff like that, it will come into it. And you know, the first kind of people, the first set of people that are going to reckon with that, the first set of people that are going to relate positively with that will be people from the north, the northerners. So setting has to do with geographical location, or a clan or a race or the culture of a particular set of people. So the message or of that thing is dealing with a particular. That's the message of the literary work or the piece, is dealing with the people of a particular geographical location. Now, plot can said to be the sequential movement or the sequential progression from one point to another in a literary work. What I mean by that is this: in a plot, you say a message will have the head, the body, and the tail, or the end. But in plot, the same applies. But some people, some very good writers, when it comes to plot now, writers too can be distinct. You understand? Because while some might just want to start, give you the head, the body, and the tail. Some might want to pick the job from the body, then comes to the head, then goes to the tail, which is the middle, the start, then the end. But then it is not it is not artistic, it is not wonderful, it is not sweet, it is not super when you are moving about a particular message zigzagly. There's nothing interesting about that. But then when you define, some people can even pick it from the end. That is when you see is an example of what you say in your movies, on your TV screen, when the person say 2 days ago. They're starting with 2 days ago. Meanwhile, what happens to today? They're leaving today aside. That is plot. It's a sequential movement, sequential journey, this sequential progression in the work of art. Now, from there we move to figures of speech. Well, I'm going to leave figures of speech for now because it is another topic on its own, or it's more like a subtopic on its own, because I have a lot embedded inside of it. So I'm going to leave it beside for now, and I'll move straight to style. Now, style has to do with the author's delivery. Now, when I say the author's delivery, is that the author's style of writing, one author's style of writing differs from another. Why? Because the way, or the employment, for instance, employment of any of these elements, the way the author employs any of this element brings out his own style. It defines him. It makes him unique. That is why when you see a poem that is written by Pepper Clark, you might be able to differentiate it from the one written by Dennis Brutus. You might be able to differentiate it from the one written by Wole Soyinka and the like. So style is about the artistical uniqueness of the author. From there we move to mood. Now mood is the feeling that takes over the author when he was writing. For instance, if a person is in a happy mood, that person will not be writing tragedy. If you understand me, when a person is in a happy mood, you will not be writing tragedy. And then when you're in a sad mood, you will not be writing comedy. You understand? So the idea is that your mood, the mood of the author, dictates what he writes, what he pens down at the time, and how he puts it down. Then number 10 is tone. Tone is like the opposite of mood. Not opposite, really. It's still about feeling. But then, when I say opposite, I mean that it is not coming from the author now, but it's coming from the reader. Tone talks about the message the reader is able to extract from the job, the message the reader is able to bring out from the whole piece, from the whole work. That is what tone is all about. The tone that the message arrives at, that okay, this is what I get from this book, this is the message, this is how I feel about it. You remember when I told you that even when you watch a drama on stage, or you read a prosaic work, or you watch a person deliver a poem to you, there's a feeling that comes up. And I said that if it's bad or good, the feeling can be washed away by an element called catharsis. Now, for tone, first of all comes in before catharsis can come into your act, depending on what you derive from it. Now, I said I'm going to come back to figures of speech, though figures of speech is an element, but then under figures of speech there are different classes of figures of speech. But right now I'm going to look like, if we can take some 10 or 15, yeah, just too many figures of speech in English literature to deal with right now. But then I'll see if we can just take like 10 or 15. I'm going to be talking about figures of speech. Now, figures of speech is numerous. When in English literature it is multiple, it's much, it's plenty. But here we're going to be talking about 10 or 11 thereabout. And the first one, as you can see here, is simile, which is coming from the word similitude. Things that are alike, you compare them to themselves. Now, but in simile, you make use of comparisons by using the word has or like. An example is, you say she is as gentle as a dove. Now this is as gentle as a dove. Makes it simile because you compare gentility with that of a dove. Now here, the number 2 is metaphor. Now metaphor doesn't make use of as or like. It's the direct opposite of simile because it's a direct word. It compares two things directly, without an SQ, without a permission, without any diplomacy. It goes to tell you that, okay, she is a dove. She is a dove. That gives her the feature or the characteristics of a dove outrightly. Now, to personification. Personification is just the act of personifying, giving life to something that doesn't have a life, giving a personality to an inanimate object. That is what personification is about. An example is the smiling moon. That is supposed to be a crescent. When you say crescent and you say it's a smiling, the moon is smiling. And a smiling. Ordinarily we know the moon can smile, but it is human to smile. So, but because because of the shape of the moon, you say the moon smiles because you've given it that it inspires your creativity. It inspires the artist in you. Then you say the moon smiles instead of it's a crescent like any other regular person would say. So next we move to euphemism. Now, euphemism, unlike the first two, is not very regular. Now, euphemism can be described as or defined as the presentation of bad news or excessive negative news in a lighter way. Delivery of bad news or negative news in a light mood or a light manner. Take for instance, and they say the king kicks the bucket. Now, when a king kicks the bucket, it ordinarily means the king is dead. It's a way to employ that instead of delivering a very bad news, like say a person dies or is dead, they rather say he kicks the bucket. You understand? You sleep eternally. is resting in peace. These are euphemisms. They are euphemizing the bad news, the unpleasant news, the unpleasant message. They bring it down in a more pleasant way, in a refined way, where the effect is not going to be very gruesome on the listener. To irony directly. Now, irony, I think irony is what most people can relate to. Irony is like saying what you mean the opposite. Is you are using a word in a context where the opposite is actually what you're trying to drive home. Say for instance that he is so good with Latin, he can hardly say good morning in the language. Say he is so good at Latin, he can hardly say good morning. Good morning in the language. Ordinarily, if a person is good at a language, the person should be able to say more than good morning. So good morning is one of the simplest things you learn from a language. So saying a person is good and yet can't say good morning in the language is ironic in nature. Quickly we move to sarcasm. Now, irony and sarcasm sometimes they want to look alike, but the aim of sarcasm most of the time, irony could just be used in order just to be funny, but sarcasm most of the time they are irony used to hurt people emotion. They hurt people. They try to correct you in a sharp, chastising manner, in a manner that it chastises you, it pains you. You understand? That is the way. That's what sarcasm tries to do. And sarcasm. Let me find another example that we can use for sarcasm. Sarcasm. You are a brilliant boy. Brilliant boy. A dumb is your envy. Your envy. You're a brilliant boy. A dumb is your envy. How can a brilliant boy envy a dumb? You understand? It's sarcastic. It's a way to defame you. It's a way to bring such a person to disreputation. You understand? So you're a brilliant boy. A dumb is your envy. That is sarcastic in nature. Quickly we move to bathos. Bathos also means anticlimax. Now, there's climax here. If you look as the last one, there's bathos and anticlimax. Climax, I should explain climax first. Now, climax is a positive progression from the lowest point to the highest point. An example is the regular, you must have heard, he came, he saw, he conquered. He came, he saw, he conquered. Now, this is climax. He followed a progression. He came, saw, and conquered. But in pathos and anticlimax, it goes from, it's the opposite of climax. It goes from the most important to a trivial or even sometimes a very foolish or stupid ending. Say, he lost his shoe. He lost his wife, his daughter, and biro. He lost his wife, a life. He lost his daughter, another life. Then he lost the biro. What has that got to do with the first two that he lost? This is the wife. It's better half, as we say in regular term. This is his daughter, their produce or product. Then what has a biro got to do with the family? So this is anticlimax or bathos. It goes from a very reasonable standpoint, then the progression goes down until it becomes stupid, almost stupid. if not translate stupid. That is anticlimax and that is climax. Now assonance and consonance. Assonance, this is the rapid succession, rapid repetition of a vowel sound. Rapid repetition of the vowel sound. I'll give you an example. Say bad boy back a bag. Now this is this no this is not this. These are vowel sounds in the middle of the words and they appear in succession. Bad, bag, bag. They have the R sound which appears continuously in the line. That makes it assonant. They assonate. Now resonance is the opposite of assonant. Resonance in this case is the rapid repetition of a consonant sound. A consonant sound. Caught, catching, cats. Now the C resonates. The C resonates here because it appears on a regular succession. So it's caught, catching, cats. That is resonant. Well, like I said earlier, the figures of speech are multiple. They are much. They are vast. They are wide in English literature. But then we can't cover everyone right now. You still have the metonyms. You have the zeugma. You have a whole lot that we cannot cover right now. But then I don't know. Maybe in our next class, or we can read it up. The rest part of the figures of speech. Well, on that note, again, this is where I bring this particular class right now to an end. Don't forget, there's Literature Clinic and it's courtesy the Future Mobile. Stay blessed.